And we are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. How are we doing, everyone? Week 12 is here. We got a banger of a football game tonight, a division matchup. Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Cleveland. Steelers are 3.5-point favorites in this game. There is some weather to discuss in this game. Weatherman Sam coming off a well-timed bye week. Had a feeling last week it was going to be a well-timed bye weekend, and it did not disappoint. We do have some weather to discuss in this game, as we've been doing for the past 11 Thursdays. I'm going to talk through both sides of this game, what I think is going to happen in this game. We'll talk through all start-sit decisions in this game. We'll get to the free player prop, of course, and then we'll grind through some start-sits the rest of the way. Shout out to everybody in this live stream right now in the first minute of the live. Guys, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Definitely helps me out a ton. I do appreciate it. We will get to the weather, of course, in this game right as we kick off here, talking about the weather. I think the weather in this spot is going to be overblown. There's going to be some light snow and some light rain in this game. There is going to be precipitation in this game, so don't let that surprise you. Weatherman Sam's here. I got you with the weather report. The wind gusts, as far as I have seen, are up to 20 miles an hour. The threshold of concern, for those of you who've been watching all season, we know it's 25 miles an hour. This is not sustained wind at 20 miles an hour. This is wind gusts up to 20. Really, I'm not concerned, really at all, about this game weather-wise. I do not think the weather is going to make it harder to pass in this game. I do think there's a decent chance we see both teams skew a little bit more towards the run, play calling-wise. I think that's very reasonable. But they're going to be able to effectively pass in this game. This is not an extremely windy game, and this is not an extremely rainy or snowy game. And honestly, I don't care that much about the rain and snow to begin with. These guys are professional athletes. There's no statistical evidence suggesting that rain or snow negatively impacts offenses or passing offenses in the NFL. There is evidence that wind is bad for passing over the 25-mile-an-hour threshold, which we're likely not going to hit tonight. There's some reports out there I've seen of wind gusts up to the 25 to 30 mile an hour range. But again, this is wind gusts, not sustained wind. So overall, I'm not concerned. I'm not letting the weather dictate my start-sit decisions tonight. The player props I'm taking tonight, I'm ignoring the weather mostly. And I think there's a little edge in this game to doing that because people are going to be overreacting about the weather tonight. We already had a comment in the live of, are we worried about the weather? And the short answer is no. We are not worried about the weather. There is weather to be aware of and not be surprised about, but we're not worried about it. And that's a good way to kick off talking about the Steelers side of this game. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are coming into this game as 3.5-point favorites. They've been significantly better since Russell Wilson took over. They won last week versus the Ravens without scoring a touchdown. Now they come in versus the Browns on the road. They are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Russ is really coming off his worst game as a starter, at least from a fantasy perspective. Only 205 yards last week. You really can't start Russ tonight. You can't really start either quarterback in this matchup. Russell Wilson, I think, a better real QB for the Steelers in NFL terms, trying to win them games. A worse fantasy QB, though, than Russ. 2 of his last 3 games now under 14 fantasy points. He's off the radar. The guy that I want to start the most on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and really maybe the only must start in this game. Let me pull it up on the YouTube live. Shout out to everybody in this live stream right now. Pull up the must starts and the must benches. So really the only no discussion needed tonight, it's George Pickens. George Pickens is absolutely balling since Russ has taken over. We have not seen George Pickens go under 70 receiving yards since Russ has been the starter. He has 4 straight games with at least 74 receiving yards, 4 straight games with at least 11 fantasy points. George Pickens meshes perfectly with Russell Wilson. He's a top 15 wide receiver option this week. I'm starting him in almost all situations. You're going to have a pretty stacked team to bench George Pickens tonight. So start George Pickens with confidence. Don't let the weather get you off of George Pickens tonight. The Browns have actually not been very good versus receivers this season. They also play a lot of man coverage. We'll get into that in a second. They're allowing the 3rd most receiving yards per game, the 2nd most receiving touchdowns per game, 2 wide receivers. We've seen some very good wide receiver performances pretty recently. Zay Flowers went for 115 versus the Browns. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they both went over 17.5 fantasy points versus the Browns. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith cooked the Browns. The receivers that are good versus man coverage typically have done well versus the Browns, and George Pickens definitely fits that list. So we're starting George Pickens tonight. I think you should be very confident in him, and you should not overreact to the weather. Next up is Najee Harris. I think he's a pretty good start tonight. I was borderline making him a must start because there's a lot of bye weeks this week, and you're getting a guy, Najee Harris, who's locked into 15-plus touches in this game. He's been one of the more consistent fantasy running backs this season. He's had at least 11 points in 5 consecutive games. He hasn't been under 9.5 fantasy points, guys, since week 2. That was 10 weeks ago. That's a lifetime ago. Najee Harris gets the Browns as a 3.5-point favorite. The Browns, by the way, who were just obliterated by Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill scored almost 50 fantasy points last week. A lot of that came in the run game. Najee Harris is no Taysom Hill, of course, but he's a good start tonight. He had 4 catches last week for 30 yards, and he had another game over 15 carries. He's now at least 18 carries in 4 consecutive games. So yeah, I'm in on Najee Harris tonight. The weather should probably skew the Steelers like a little bit more run heavy. He's got a good chance at a touchdown. His prop lines are in the 70s for rush and total yards tonight. I think he's a pretty good start. He's not a must start in all situations. There's other guys I like with a better ceiling, I think, than Najee this week. I'm sure we'll get to some Najee Harris starts it questions tonight. That's it for the Steelers. Guys, you got to bench literally everybody else. You can't start Jaylen Warren tonight unless you're in a really rough spot. Now, I'd start him over Jerome Ford, I think, if I had to make that call. But Jaylen Warren, really not a great fantasy option in this one. He does have back-to-back games with at least 9.5 fantasy points, 4 catches last week. Only played 33% of the snaps, though. He's really just not seeing enough work to be bullish on tonight. Pat Freiermuth has been out-targeted by Darnell Washington since Russell Wilson took over. He's not startable tonight. He really should be on the waiver wire in every single league. I don't think it's that crazy to like Darnell Washington tonight more than Pat Freiermuth. We have it projected really close in the WalterPicks app. And then obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They need to be started tonight. First, famous Jameis and Jameis Winston, who is one of the most turnover-prone quarterbacks in the entire NFL. The Steelers defense is the number 1 defense in fantasy this week. They're a must-start if you have. Don't hate Chris Boswell either, who scored 5 field goals last week. Again, the Steelers won last week versus the Super Bowl contending Baltimore Ravens without a touchdown on the back of Chris Boswell. So that's the Steelers side of the ball. We're starting George Pickens. I feel pretty good starting Najee Harris. You're basically benching everybody else. Bench Russell Wilson, bench Jaylen Warren, bench Pat Freiermuth. You're starting the Steelers defense. And Mike Williams, you obviously can't start yet. Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, these receivers are well off the fantasy radar. I still think Mike Williams' role will continue to grow. Definitely an interesting thing to watch tonight. He only played 32% of snaps last week. That was up from 11% back in week 10. He's had the game-winning touchdown. If you guys remember back just a couple weeks ago, he had 1 catch, 32 yards, and a touchdown on his 1 target, I believe. Yeah, 1 target. He's 1 target so far this season with the Steelers, and it was a game-winning touchdown, 32 yards, and a TD. Maybe get him some more targets. I think we can expect that. We're projecting him for a 2.4 targets tonight, a 9% target share. I do think his role will continue to grow. We got him projected for 1.5 catches, 20 yards, well off the fantasy radar, but definitely a guy to watch tonight. He should grow into the number 2 receiver for the Steelers and mesh pretty well with Russ's skill set also. All right, so that's the Steelers side of the ball. Again, do not panic about the weather. Do not let the weather get you off of George Pickens tonight. Don't let it get off Najee Harris. If anything, it helps Najee Harris. All right, on to the Browns. A pretty short list of must-starts on the Browns as well. The list is literally nobody. I don't think you need to start any Browns player tonight. They're playing the Steelers defense. This is arguably the best defense in the league. They're in the conversation for the best defense in the league. They rank 4th best versus wide receivers this season. They rank 10th best versus running backs. This season, they rank 2nd best versus quarterbacks this season. They rank 9th best versus tight ends. Guys, they are a top 10 defense versus every single position. So you don't need to force it, I don't think, with any Browns players. Really, the only guy that maybe is a must start isn't David Njoku, but it really depends on the other tight ends you have. There are tight ends I would play pretty confidently over Njoku. We'll get to that list. It's a pretty short list. So he's a likely worth it start, David Njoku. I don't really want to start any of these receivers tonight. A bit of a fantasy football headache here with the receivers. Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore. I prefer Jeudy and Tillman a decent bit more than Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is in that Wan'Dale Robinson role that I try to avoid in fantasy. He did have a good game last week. He did score a touchdown last week, 18.6 points for Elijah Moore. We cooked a little bit with the DraftKings lineup. Last week, we ran the Jameis, Elijah Moore, Jeudy stack. And, of course, we played CMC and Kelsey, so it didn't pan out. But it was close. The air yards actually, Wan'Dale Robinson could never get close to this amount of air yards, 149 air yards here for Elijah Moore last week. So maybe it's a little bit much to say he's in the Wan'Dale Robinson role. He's a deep sleeper. I definitely prefer him less than Judy and Tillman, though. I prefer the roles that Judy and Tillman are in. Judy was the guy last week. He had one big catch. Most of his points came on one catch. He had 26.2 points, 6 catches, 142 and a TD. He had 146 air yards, 25% target share, 11 targets. The Browns have been very pass heavy under Jameis Winston so far. You do got to expect them to skew a little bit more towards the run in this game. Jameis playing in some wet conditions. I think the play calling probably skews more to the run. Again, I'm not concerned that they won't be able to pass. I do think it could impact the play calling a little bit. Judy, Tillman, they're okay. Maybe worth it starts. Nick Chubb, the volume will probably be there for Chubb. I still think he gets at least 15 touches in this game. I said that last week too. That was wrong. Last week, the game script got away from that a little bit. You'll need 11 carries, no catches. And Nick Chubb now has -4 receiving yards in his last 3 games. -4 receiving yards in his last 3 games, 1 catch. His prop line tonight for catches is at half a reception. I personally would take the under there with the plus 170 odds I saw. That's not the free player prop of the night, though. Nick Chubb, he's startable, but he's not a must start. And he's not even a likely worth it start. He's a touchdown-dependent fantasy football running back playing against the Steelers, who have allowed 1 rushing touchdown per game to running backs this season. Derrick Henry scored. Eckler and McNichols both scored. Tracy scored. Breece Hall scored. So he's got a decent shot at a touchdown. He's the most likely Browns player to score tonight. So he's startable, but not a must start. We're going to get to the start sit decisions here in a second, guys, in the chat. We're about to get to the free player prop. I'll talk to who I think is going to win the game. We'll get to the free player prop. We'll talk about the weather one more time since I know there's some comments about it. Then we will grind through the start sits. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, hit the follow button. And I cannot see your comment on TikTok unless you are following. So smash the follow button. All right, let's get to the rest of this lineup here. Jerome Ford, not startable. None of these other guys are even worth mentioning. The Browns defense, I don't really like them nearly as much as I like the Steelers defense tonight. I could see a narrative for them with this game having a really low total. This is the lowest over-under total of the week at 36/36.5. Again, I think they're overrating the weather a bit here. I like the over tonight if I were to take a side there. That's it for the Browns. For starting Njoku, you got to bench Winston versus the Steelers. This is not a good spot, guys, for Winston. Not a good spot. We've seen very, very few good quarterback performances versus the Steelers. Last week, Lamar Jackson only scored 16 points, 207 passing yards. Jane Daniels only had 9 points. We have not seen a quarterback score more than 20 fantasy points versus the Steelers this entire season. It's probably not going to be Winston that breaks that trend. They're allowing the second fewest points per game to quarterbacks. I think only the Chargers maybe have been better. All right, so that's the Browns side of the ball. I think the Steelers win this game by probably more than the spread of 3.5. I would take the money line over the spread if I had to choose. But I do like the Steelers on the road in this one. I don't see the Browns offense having a lot of success. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Steelers defense outscore the Browns offense in this game. I think that's well within the range of outcomes here for Winston in this matchup versus the Steelers defense. I have a lot of confidence in the Steelers defense. I also have decent confidence in the Steelers offense, which brings me to the free player prop of the night. And guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, we're also live on YouTube. YouTube is a better viewing experience. I can share my screen on the YouTube live. I can pull up comments onto the screen on the YouTube live. Link to that's right in the TikTok bio. If you want a slightly better live stream viewing experience, shout out to everybody though, whether you're on TikTok, on YouTube. Appreciate everyone in this live so much. Look forward to these lives all week. We got a very fun one tonight with a fun game on in just a couple of hours. All right, so the free player prop tonight, we went 2 for 3 last week on the free player prop, sticking right around 63% on the season. George Pickens is the free player prop tonight. Over 60.5 receiving yards. I actually saw it at 59.5 just before this live. I've seen it on another place at 63.5. So 60.5 feels like a fair place to take this one. George Pickens is playing a Browns defense tonight that has played a lot of man coverage this season. And it's resulted in really bad numbers for them versus receivers. They're allowing the 3rd most receiving yards per game to wide receivers. This season, they're playing man coverage at the 4th highest rate in the NFL. And unsurprisingly, George Pickens has absolutely cooked versus man coverage, guys. 36% of the targets for the Steelers have gone towards George Pickens when they are facing man coverage. He's averaging a 4.13 yards per route run when facing man coverage. If we pull up the yards per route run numbers here real quick, 4.13 yards per route run, that's near the top of the league. That might actually be number 1 in the NFL just overall, taking his man coverage number versus the overall yards per run. But yeah, this is a good spot for George Pickens. I think people are overrating the impact of the weather is going to have on Russell Wilson and the passing attack in this game. Maybe there'll be a little less pass volume. Does not matter if 40% of the targets go towards George Pickens. He's seen some incredible target shares since Russell Wilson has taken over. We talked about this before the season with Malik Neighbors, and it's really surfaced for CeeDee Lamb this season as well. But really, George Pickens probably takes the reign as the biggest gap between the best receiver on the team and the next best receiver on the team. Maybe Mike Williams can close the gap a bit, but we're talking George Pickens versus Van Jefferson or Calvin Austin as the next best receiver for the Steelers. Really, it's Darnell Washington or Jalen Warren or Najee Harris or Pat Freiermuth. But it's shown in the numbers. We've seen over a 30% target share in 3 of his last 5 games. He is over this line in every single game with Russell Wilson. And now he plays a team that's playing the 4th most man coverage. I like this a lot. I think George Pickens does a great job to go over 100 yards. I think he's a great option for fantasy, and we're taking his free player prop tonight. All right, that's the free player prop. Again, I'm not panicking about the weather. Also, one note on Pat Freiermuth. He has had no more than 3 catches in a game since week 4, and he's being out-targeted by Darnell Washington. Lower target share than Darnell Washington since Russell Wilson took over. Do not start Freiermuth tonight. We still have Freiermuth projected just slightly ahead of Washington, but definitely noteworthy. All right, let's get to some of the start sits now. My favorite part of the live stream. Again, shout out to everybody in this live, guys. We are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. I appreciate everyone in here. If you haven't already, you got to download the WalterPicks app. It's the app I use to help me with these start sit decisions I get on this live stream. If you're watching live on YouTube, you're seeing the WalterPicks app shared on screen right now. If you've never tried out the WalterPicks app, it's free. You are actively not trying to win your league if you don't have the WalterPicks app. It's in the YouTube description. It's in the TikTok bio. Spent the last 4 years of my life helping build this app. The best way you could possibly support me. There's some premium subscriptions in the app too. You'll get a free 7-day trial if you use code SAM when you sign up. That does help me out as well. All right, I'm seeing a question about Tillman versus Judy in a TikTok live. That feels like a very on-brand one to start with. I personally lean Judy just slightly. We have them back-to-back in the WalterPicks app rankings. I don't love either of them tonight. I think they're maybe worth it, though, in certain spots. And if I had to go Judy versus Tillman, I'm going Judy. And we talked about this on the live stream on Sunday last week. I thought Judy was pretty underrated heading into that game in comparison to Cedric Tillman. And it ended up playing out. Judy had a massive game. And I think Judy does still profile as the more likely number 1 receiver on this team. He went out and traded for him. He's got the draft capital from the past. He's more of the prototypical number 1 receiver that you'd expect. He's had at least 5 catches and at least 70 yards in 3 consecutive games. So yeah, I like Judy more than Tillman, but I really don't love either of them in this matchup versus the Steelers, who are top 5 versus receivers this season. Judy or Pacheco? Yeah, we're not starting Pacheco this week, guys. Can't start Pacheco. I saw a good one earlier too. Yeah, this one, Pickens versus Ladd. So Ladd has been estimated as a non-participant in practice so far this week. I think Ladd probably plays. I'm definitely hopeful he plays. There's a new shoulder injury he picked up last week, but he played through it, which is usually a good sign he'll play in the next game. He has an extra day this week too because they play on Monday night. But I would play Pickens over Ladd. If I had a choice like this, I want to start Pickens tonight anyway. We have Ladd projected a little bit over Pickens in the WalterPicks app, but it's close enough here. 1.3 point difference here in the projection. Just go with Pickens, who we know is playing. We don't know Ladd is playing. But if I had to choose between Ladd and Judy or Ladd and Cedric Tillman or Ladd and Najee Harris or Ladd and Nick Chubb, I'm going Ladd there. I'm willing to take that risk for the bigger upside there. But I think Ladd and Pickens are close enough. I would go Pickens there personally. Both good options. And again, we don't know for sure Ladd is playing. Eckler or Tillman, that one's pretty close. Tillman or Addison, a lot of Tillman questions. Let's get to these two. I think you do want to bench Tillman if you can. I know there's a lot of bye weeks this week. So in some spots, we're not going to be able to bench Tillman. I get that. Let's go Tillman versus Eckler. Eckler coming off a very good game. Yeah, it's Eckler here. Eckler versus the Cowboys. They've been horrible versus the run. They're allowing the most yards per reception to running backs this season as well. I like Eckler a lot this week. I think Eckler over both Tillman and Judy makes sense. I think a 5 TD game from Winston tonight, I really would be shocked if we saw the best QB performance of the season versus the Steelers come from Jameis Winston tonight. Damn, Sam, you're high on Pickens. I'm scared about the weather. Are you starting him over Downs and JMO? Yeah, let's do this comparison quick. I'm not scared about the weather, Caden. I'm not. I think the one thing I'm willing to be a little worried about is the play call. I do think both these teams tonight skew a little bit more run heavy because of the weather. I do not think the weather is going to be a reason that they can't pass, though. when they do call passing plays, and they will call passing plays tonight. It's Pickens easily over these two guys. I was really not that close. Maybe you can make an argument for Downs. I'm not going to make an argument for Jameson Williams, who I know he's coming off a good game, but the Lions, I think, again, will probably skew run heavy this week. I said that last week, and they did skew run heavy. It didn't matter, though, because their passing plays went for 20 yards a pass or whatever it was. I mean, that game was absolutely insane. I do not know, also, how is Doug Peterson still employed? I mean, they said before the game he was going to get fired, and the game went about as poorly as you could possibly go, and has not been fired yet. But yeah, I'm going Pickens over Josh Downs. I'm going Pickens over Jameson Williams. This is not a Thursday night question here, Jen Liz. I probably would lean Dowdle over Leggett, but not a Thursday night question. We're prioritizing the Thursday night question set, like Najee versus Dobbins. Seeing that one in the TikTok live. I think that one's Najee over Dobbins. Really, since Gus Edwards came back, I'm much less inclined to start Dobbins. He did have a good game last week versus the Bengals, 18.9 points. Scored twice, though, and only had one catch. A solid snap percentage. I mean, the usage was fine. His route participation was down a bit. The rush share only 40. He only had 11 carries. 11 carries, one target. Now he gets the Ravens. Yeah, I mean, revenge game here for J.K. Dobbins. Revenge game for Gus this week, too. But yeah, I think I'd go Najee here. Judy, Tillman, or Dunze. I'm going to Dunze. I'm going to Dunze and DJ Moore over Judy and Tillman. Chubb or Tillman? Yeah, this is a floor-ceiling decision there. I think Chubb clearly has the safer floor. Chubb's locked in, I think, to 15-plus touches tonight. Whereas Tillman, isn't. The running backs almost always have a better floor, I think, than the receivers for that reason. Walter agrees with me on that. But yeah, I think it's still Tillman over Chubb. Chubb is a touchdown-dependent running back, especially if you're in a PPR league. He's not going to get more than like one catch tonight. I think I lean Tillman. But if you want to play it safe, it's Chubb. Chubb is definitely the safer option. And Njoku or Otten. Yeah, so let's talk through the tight end. So there's not very many tight ends I'm starting over David Njoku. This is the list of tight ends I'm starting over David Njoku tonight. Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Trey McBride, Cade Otton. End of list. End of list. So I'm playing Otton over Njoku. I'm playing McBride over Njoku, Kittle over Njoku, Kelce over Njoku, and Bowers. That's it. For those of you just tuning into the YouTube live, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Helps me out way more than you realize. I really do appreciate it. Shout out to everybody in this live stream right now. We got a banger of a football game on in just over an hour and a half. We got a divisional matchup between the Steelers and the Browns, a game that's projected to be extremely low scoring. And I don't think I agree with the over-under tonight. I think people are overrating the weather in this game. This is going to be the first snow game of the season. This happens almost every season with the first snow game. There is some light snow and some light rain. There might even be times in this game where there's no rain or snow at all. The chance of rain is 40% basically throughout the entire game. The wind, you ask? Because the wind is the most important weather number to look at that can actually really derail NFL offenses and just make it so they cannot pass as effectively. It's only going to be gusting up to 20 miles an hour. That's not great, but it's not super concerning. 25 miles an hour is the threshold of serious concern. So overall, I'm really not that concerned. And again, the sustained winds are well below 20 miles an hour. The sustained winds are closer to the 5 to 15 mile an hour range. Not concerning at all. I mean, really not going to impact things at all. I do think we see both teams probably skew a little bit more run heavy, particularly the Browns, who have been really pass heavy under Jameis Winston. You got to be a little nervous about Winston in the rain, in the wind. He's already a very turnover-worthy quarterback, and he's been throwing a ton. I mean, he's had over 40 pass attempts in 3 straight games. The Browns have been extremely pass heavy this season. I don't think they're going to be able to do that tonight, though, versus the Steelers. The Steelers are the second best defense versus quarterbacks this season. This is a legit Steelers defense here. So, yeah, I'm a little nervous about the pass volume for the Browns, but I'm not nervous that they aren't going to be able to throw in this game. Both teams are going to throw a significant amount in this game. It's not going to be like a we can't throw type of game. A little snow, a little rain, not concerning. A little wind, up to 20 mile an hour wind gusts, really not concerning. If we're talking 30 mile an hour wind gusts, which I've seen some reports out there in the 25 to 30 mile an hour wind gust range, a little bit concerning. But still, this is just wind gusts. This isn't like sustained wind throughout the game. Just moment of the game where there's going to be some wind. So yeah, I think the pass volume probably goes down a little bit, but the pass efficiency probably not very effective. Angel, how we doing, man? Thoughts on Herbert greater than Wilson? Yeah, I would definitely go Herbert over Wilson. I want to bench both these quarterbacks tonight if I can. Pick two. Njoku, Hawk, or Tillman. Hawk versus Tillman. That's probably close. Njoku, Hawk, and Tillman. I'm playing Njoku over Hawk. So it's really Hawk versus Tillman. I usually don't like to start 2 tight ends. Yeah, I'd go Tillman and Njoku here. Sam, in a deep league at wide receiver, I have Tillman, but waivers don't have much. Where's the floor of wide receiver you'd play Tillman over? Are you saying like Cam Akers? Nah, I don't think I'd go Cam Akers over Tillman. I think in deep leagues, this is why on the TikTok live, I have the you see it on the YouTube live too, I have broken out as no discussion needed. Just George Pickens, Steelers defense in that category. Then we got Najee and Njoku in the likely worth a category. The maybe worth a category is Judy, Tillman, Chubb. Like they really do have a ceiling here in this game. Yeah. So in terms of like the floor, I'd go for Cedric Tillman. I think Douglas versus Tillman and Judy is close. Honestly, I think I lean Douglas there. I think Tank Dell would be fine to play over them. I don't know if I'd play Lockett over them. I don't think I'd play Leggett over them or Adam Thielen over them. I'm not playing Booty over them. I'm not playing Waddle over them. Darius Slayton over them. No thanks. I'm not playing Josh Palmer over them unless Ladd is out, but we won't know that. I'm not playing Bateman. I'm not playing some of these running backs too. If I go to the flex here and find Cedric Tillman further down the list, I don't think Cam Akers is startable over Tillman or Judy. Jalen Warren, I'm not starting over Tillman. J.K. Dobbins, I think there's a reasonable argument to make there in the revenge game versus the Ravens, but I think that's close. Alexander Madison, nope, he might not even play. Probably going to see Dylan Lobb this week. None of these tight ends I'm playing over him. Nick Chubb is close, but I think I just said I'd probably go Tillman over Chubb for the ceiling. Najee or Judy is definitely Najee. Definitely Najee over Judy. Matt, I'm playing almost every QB over Russ and over Winston tonight. I'm playing Njoku over Hawk. Is Thielen startable this week? He's startable in deep leagues, but I prefer pretty much all the receivers tonight. I prefer Judy and Tillman, definitely Pickens over him. Devonta or Tillman, I think you got to go Tillman there. I don't think Devonta's going to play. He hasn't practiced yet. Pretty concerned about that. Yeah, Russ versus Stroud. So let's go to the QB ranks here. I mean, it's pretty bad for Russ and Winston in this one. I do think it's reasonable to expect lower pass volume in this game, even if the efficiency I don't think will be affected much on two teams that, especially the Steelers, they definitely want to run the ball. Russ had no touchdowns last week in a good matchup versus the Ravens. I do like Pickens tonight, but we've seen now multiple times Pickens has a good game and Russ really doesn't for fantasy. I'd play Russ over Will Levis. I think I would personally play him over Tommy DeVito. We don't have that in the app because DeVito's rushed a little bit in the past. But yeah, I'm playing Drake May, Caleb Williams, Matt Stafford, even in a tough matchup and against the Eagles. I play Geno Tua. I definitely would play Stroud versus the Titans with Nico back. Anthony Richardson easily over both quarterbacks tonight. I don't think that's very close. Would you drop Tank Bigsby for Alexander Madison? No, I wouldn't. I would not do that. I want nothing to do with these Raiders running backs. Chris Boswell must play. Yeah, he's a must play. Yeah, I didn't put him on the list, but yeah, he's a top 5 kicker this week. Steelers defense also a must play. Chubb or Bucky? That one's Bucky, man. I think Bucky versus the Giants in a pretty good spot. Very rough start sit. Reed, these are the start sits that get me up in the morning, man. This is what it's all about. These are the league defining start sit decisions here. Jerome Ford, Justice Hill. Justice Hill had a bunch of catches, I think last week or the week before. He's coming off an 8-point game. He's got at least 8 points in 2 of his last 3. He's got, 9 catches in his last 3 games, averaging 3 catches a game. Then you got Jerome Ford. He was pretty involved last week, 7.9 points from him, 4 catches for him. Man, I mean, look at this projection too, super close. I mean, this is the definition of a very rough start sit. And yeah, we got a lot of buys this week. Brees, Bijan, Braylon Allen, Algier on buy. Yeah, I think you probably go Justice Hill here. I think I would go Justice Hill here. It's close. It's really, really close. But I have more faith in that Ravens-Chargers game ending up being high scoring and the Ravens having to pass in that one. I think starting Kmet is fine this week. He played almost 100% of snaps last week. Tillman or Downs? Yeah, it's Downs over Tillman. It's Downs over Tillman and Judy. I think I would play Downs over Tillman and Judy personally. Dobbins, Akers, or Estimate? 12-man. Not a Thursday night question here. It's probably Dobbins, though, or Estimate. I don't think we can start Akers. Hey, Sam, love the app. Conflicted between Laporta and more. Thanks, man. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet, you got to check it out. It is a free app. The best way you could possibly support me. Download the WalterPicks app. It's going to help you win your fantasy league down the stretch. It's also going to help you with player props for NFL, NBA, MLB. It is a free app with premium subscriptions that are well worth it, well worth the cost. I think we're charging way too little for those. But it also comes with a 7-day free trial. If you use code SAM2, do appreciate that. Shout out to you for already checking it out. Yeah, so Laporta or DJ Moore. Yeah, not a Thursday night start sit here, but I think you got to go Moore. You got to start DJ Moore. I think both DJ Moore and Adunze, pretty good options this week versus the Vikings. Yeah, I don't think this is very close. Start Boswell, even though the conditions. Yeah, so Weatherman Sam's here for you guys. And Weatherman Sam really is not that concerned about the weather in this game. Definitely not for the kickers. You know, a little rain, a little snow, nothing to be super concerned about. The wind, it's going to be under 20 miles an hour most of the game, guys. That's not even that close to the 25 mile an hour threshold. We're going to be under 25 mile an hour winds in almost the entire game, maybe the whole game. I left Boswell off the list, guys. I don't think about kickers much. I really don't. Kickers are probably my least favorite part of fantasy. I'm not a kickers guy. I know there's kickers guys out there. I'm not one of them. Russell Wilson or Drake May. It's Drake May. It's got to be Drake May. I don't want to start the quarterbacks tonight. You're playing the Steelers defense over all defenses. Seeing a Steelers defense or Chargers defense question in the TikTok live, seeing some Steelers defense questions in the YouTube live. It's the Steelers, guys. The Steelers are in a very good spot here versus Winston. They are one of the best defenses in the NFL. They might be the best defense in the NFL. They projected the number one defense this week. This game has the lowest over-under of the week. I like the over personally. I also like George Pickens' prop tonight. That's the free player prop of the night. George Pickens over 60.5 receiving yards. He has hit this line in every single game with Russ, and I'm not overly concerned about Pickens tonight with the weather. Do I start both Njoku and Otten? Am I crazy? No, you're not crazy. On a week with a bunch of buys, and they're both top 6 tight ends this week. Judy or Reed? Yeah, it's Reed. Darnell Washington or Muth? Yeah, so I actually have a stat for you on that one that I think is really close. So Pat Freiermuth, he has not had more than 3 catches in a game since week 4. He's had 9% of the team's targets since Russell Wilson took over, compared to 10.8% for Darnell Washington. So Darnell Washington has out-targeted Pat Freiermuth since Russell Wilson took over. I think it's still really close between the two. You know, I still think Freiermuth is better. I still think he's more likely to get more catches and targets, but clearly Russ likes Darnell Washington. And we got Muth just barely projected ahead of Darnell Washington in the WalterPicks app. I think I still would go for Freiermuth, but man, it's close. It's a very real decision here, a very reasonable question to be asking. Pat Freiermuth or Darnell Washington. Freiermuth is playing more still, though. His snap percentage is higher. He's still more the pass-catching guy. Darnell Washington, a physical freak. Guys, he's 6'7", 264 pounds. I mean, he's a legit, like, NBA center. Maybe not quite NBA center height, but NBA center weight at least. Njoku or Otten? Yeah, I'd go Njoku. In most spots this week, but not over Otten. Otten is the cutoff. I'm playing Otten over Njoku. I'm playing McBride over Njoku. I'm playing Kittle over Njoku. I'm playing Kelsey over Njoku. And I'm playing Bowers over Njoku. Najee or Lad McConkey in the flex. Yeah, thanks for the gift in the TikTok live. But yeah, I'm definitely going with McConkey. If I'm deciding between McConkey and Najee, or McConkey or Njoku, or McConkey and Judy and Tillman and Chubb, I'm going McConkey. I'm risking it for McConkey. There's a chance McConkey does not play this week. He has not been estimated to be a participant at practice so far this week, but he plays Monday. Tomorrow will be a big day for him in terms of practice. So he has an extra day to get right. He hurt his shoulder in the game last week, but he played through it, which is a good sign that he'll play. I think he probably will play, even though he hasn't practiced yet. But if I have Pickens in McConkey, I'm just going Pickens. I think Pickens is a very good option, almost comparable to McConkey if he plays. Russell Wilson or Drake May? Yes, Drake May. It's Drake May. We're playing Downs over Tillman. We're playing, Lamb. He might not play too. Lamb might not play too. Like, this one's close, man. I think Wandale versus Tillman's probably pretty close. Let's do this comparison real quick. Wandale versus Tillman. I think that one's Tillman. You might want to go Tillman here. I'm not sure Lamb plays. He hasn't practiced yet this week. Chubb or Judy? Yeah. The Chubb versus Judy and Chubb versus Tillman questions, they are floor ceiling decisions. You know, there's a range of outcomes for every player every week. The running backs, they have a higher floor because their volume floor is higher, right? I think Chubb is locked into around 15 touches tonight. I'd be shocked to see him go under, much under 15 touches. Judy, Tillman, their floor is much lower. I think the ceiling's higher, though, because Chubb does not catch passes, especially in PPR leagues. Chubb has -4 receiving yards. 1 catch, -4 receiving yards in his last 3 games. He's touchdown dependent. And the Steelers have allowed a decent amount of rushing touchdowns tonight, this season, and Chubb is the most likely Browns player to score tonight. So he's viable. I think if you want to lock in close to 10 points, you go Chubb. You want a chance at 20+, you go Judy Tillman. Personally, with my personality, I'm going Judy Tillman. I'm going for the 20+. I'm not settling for 10 points. But that's up to you. That's your call. Samster. Swift or Tillman at flex. Yeah, I think it's Swift over Tillman. Oh, yeah, with the groin. Oh, I forgot Swift might not play this week, too. I don't think he's practiced yet, right? Oh, man. Yeah, you got to go Tillman. You got to go Tillman over Swift. Hasn't practiced yet, groin injury. Decent chance he sits, Adrian. You got to go with Tillman over Swift. Should I trade James Conner for Mike Evans? Yeah, I would do that. I like both guys a lot. I think Mike Evans, guys, is going to get to the 1,000 yards. I think that's going to become the mission of the Bucs season is just to get Mike Evans to 1,000 yards. I think he's going to do it. He needs to get like 95 yards a game or something like that to get there. He's going to start this week over 95 yards. I like his props right now. He's at like 50 yards prop lines. Samster, Swift or Tillman? Yeah, we got to this one. I'm going Tillman over Swift because I'm not confident Swift is going to play. Mark Andrews or Cole Kmet? Yes, come on. How can Pickens be a no discussion, but Russell Wilson is a must sit? Pickens can't do good without Wilson. Yeah, so Darren, this is a really good question. I appreciate questions like this. You know, I'm always open to push back. So Pickens is seeing 36% of the Steelers' targets against man coverage. The Browns are playing the fourth most man coverage in the NFL. Pickens, over the last 4 games, he's had at least 74 receiving yards in all 4 of them with Russ. He has not been under 11.5 points. The last 2 weeks, so last week, just look at last week. I think last week's just a perfect example of why Pickens is a must start and Russ is not. Pickens, last week, 8 catches, 89 yards, 17 fantasy points. Russell in PPR leagues. Russell Wilson, last week, he had 7 points. QB 27. He was QB 27 in a week where Pickens ranked as wide receiver 19. He was a top 20 wide receiver, and Pickens was a bottom 5 quarterback option. You know, just look at last week. That's an example of why this can happen. Pickens is the entire receiving game for the Steelers. So he can have a good game, and Russ can be a good guy to bench. These things are not exactly correlated. Obviously, Pickens doing well helps Russ, but Pickens can have a good game, and then who's getting the rest of the receiving work? Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, Mike Williams, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington. So yeah, I think Pickens is a must start, and Russ is a must bench. And I think that's why. Last week I think is a good example as why. Hey Sam, I'm torn starting on Eckler or Dowdle this week. Yeah, I think it's Eckler over Dowdle. Hey Sam, I appreciate if you saw this for my Happy PR League. Jalen Warren versus Roschon. Yeah, this is an interesting one. This is the other side of the DeAndre Swift start sit we just got to. And again, I kind of lean towards Swift not playing. He hasn't practiced yet, groin injury. So yeah, I think I lean towards Roschon here. And Roschon's not like the most exciting start, but I would definitely start Roschon over Jalen Warren if DeAndre Swift is out. And I'm currently under the assumption that Swift is probably not going to play. Do you think Pacheco plays? I do think Pacheco plays, but I do not think you're going to be able to start him. The prop lines came out for Kareem Hunt, and the prop lines are in the 70s for his rushing yards. His projected for like 17.5 carries. Kareem Hunt. I don't think we see a big role for Pacheco. I do think we see him play, though. DK or Pickens? Yeah, this one's pretty close. Let's do this comparison quick between DK and Pickens. Again, I like Pickens tonight. I think he's a good fantasy option. I think if the Browns play man coverage tonight, it's not going to go well for them versus George Pickens. We've seen this for a lot of the good receivers this season versus the Browns. They have not been very good guys versus receivers. They're ranked second worst. This is not the Browns secondary of old. This is the Browns secondary of new. Here, not a good secondary this season. So let's do Pickens versus Metcalf. And again, I'm not panicking about the weather. Yeah, it's Metcalf still though over Pickens. It is Metcalf over Pickens. One of the few receivers I would play over Pickens. Let me list off the receivers we have projected ahead of Pickens in the WalterPicks app. Again, guys, if you haven't downloaded the WalterPicks app yet, do not know what you're waiting for. I really don't. It's a free app. That's going to help you with fantasy and props. It's in the TikTok bio. It's in the YouTube description. So I'm starting Amon Ra, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors. CeeDee Lamb, I honestly don't think I would start over Pickens because I'm not convinced CeeDee Lamb's playing this week. He hasn't practiced yet. I feel like there's just so much incentive for Lamb to sit in a lost season for the Cowboys too. Puka Nacua, I'm starting over Pickens. Mike Evans, I'm starting over Pickens. Ladd McConkey, same thing. As CeeDee Lamb, I'm not 100% confident he's going to play because he hasn't practiced yet. I would just go Pickens there because Pickens is a very good option. Pretty comparable to McConkey this week. Nico, I'm playing over Pickens. Metcalf, I'm playing over Pickens. Cooper Kupp, I'm playing over Pickens. JSN, I'm playing over Pickens. Zay Flowers is close, man. I don't know if I'd go Zay over Pickens personally. Tyreek, I'd go over Pickens. That's it. End of list. I'm playing Pickens over Tebow, Jennings, Devontae Smith, all these other guys. Terry McLaurin, I'm playing Pickens over. I'm playing Pickens over Terry McLaurin. I'm going Njoku over Hawkinson. Let me read off the tight ends I'm playing over Njoku. It's a short list. I'm not playing Warren because he has very low touchdown potential with Najee getting the goal line work and most of the rushing work. Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce, Kittle, McBride on end of list. That's what I'm playing over Njoku. Then it's Njoku. I'm playing Njoku over Henry, over Disley, over Hawkinson, over Andrews, over Laporta, over Jonnu Smith, over Likely, over Ertz, over Schultz, over Goddard. Yeah, I get that Mike Evans is back. I still think Otton's going to be very involved. Cedric Tillman or Ladd. Yeah, so if I have Ladd, I'm benching him for Pickens tonight. I'm not benching him for anyone else tonight. I'm not benching him for Najee, for Njoku, for Judy, for Tillman, for Chubb. No. I would hold out for hope that Ladd plays. Njoku question. Trade McBride and Connor for Mixon. Have Njoku. Yeah, love it. Love that. I like McBride and Connor, but not as much as Mixon. And you have another good tight end. See if you can do Njoku and Connor. Talk him. Does he really want two Cardinals players? I bet you can talk him into Njoku and Connor instead. And I do prefer McBride over Njoku, but I don't hate the trade as is either. Tillman, Wandale, or Pittman. Yeah, this one's close. We talked about Tillman versus Wandale. I do think it's probably Tillman over Wandale. You got Tommy DeVito starting, and then Pittman. Man, it's Pittman. It's Pittman versus Lions. That does make sense. Probably going to be a pretty pass-heavy, high-scoring game. This is also, you look at the game here tonight. This game has the lowest over-under of the week, 36.5. That Lions-Colts game is at 50.5. There's projected to be 15 points more scored more in that Lions-Colts game. I think the over is like a decent take tonight because I think the weather's being overrated. But, yeah, I'd go Pittman and Downs over Tillman and Judy. Everyone start Boswell. Yeah, start Boswell, start Steelers defense. Don't let the weather get you off either of those guys, either of those options. Obviously, the weather honestly helps the Steelers defense. Sam, I'm scared of Mixon's playoff schedule. Do I trade for Kamara? I don't think Mixon's a guy to be scared of his schedule. Mixon has still not had a bad fantasy game this season. It's week 12. He's not had a bad fantasy game. And yeah, week 16 versus the Chiefs, it's scary, but I don't think it matters for a guy like Mixon. The Ravens, kind of scary. I really don't think it matters that much. The week 14 bye, that could hurt in some leagues, depending if you're in the playoffs already or not. But yeah, I still want Mixon more than Kamara. Dowdle or Tillman? Yeah, I think it's Tillman over Dowdle. Not a good spot to be. I'd go with Dunze over Tillman. I'd go Dunze and DJ Moore. Did I miss the player props for tonight? Tyler, I got you. We are 29-17 on the free player props, man. It's hard to get much better than this. It really is. And we're going with Pickens tonight. Over 60.5 receiving yards. He's beaten us in every single game with Russell Wilson so far. I am not panicking about the weather. 20-mile-an-hour wind gust. That's under the 25-mile-an-hour threshold of concern. That's wind gusts, not sustained wind. And then there's light rain and snow. That doesn't scare me at all, really. I think that the Steelers and the Browns, they probably lean a little bit more run-heavy because of it. But I don't think their efficiency in the pass game goes down. So I like Pickens a lot. The Browns play a lot of man coverage, fourth highest in the league. Pickens seeing almost 40% of the Steelers' targets when playing man coverage this season with Russell Wilson. Pickens averaging over 4 yards per route run versus man coverage this season. So, yeah, we're on the Pickens prop tonight. And I do like the over tonight, too. Because, again, I'm not panicked about the weather. I think people are factoring the weather too much tonight. Judy or Downs? Yeah, I'm going Downs. I'm going Downs and Pittman. Boswell's a must start. No discussion needed really for Boswell. You're starting Boswell. I'm not letting the weather scare me off Boswell either. He hit 5 field goals last week. Judy, Chubb, Dunze, Waddle. Yeah, it's a Dunze here. Play a Dunze over Chubb, a Dunze over Judy, a Dunze over Waddle. I like a Dunze a decent amount. Suyel in the YouTube live. How we doing, man? Rough week with buys. Yeah, you're not alone. This is a really rough bye week. There's a lot of good teams on bye this week. A lot of good fantasy players. Would you go Ford or Abdullah? Oh, gosh. Man, I do think that Madison and Zamir are probably out this week. Almost definitely Zamir. I kind of think Madison's out too. Right now, though, we have Madison projected in. So it's not going to be a good Abdullah projection. If Madison is out, obviously this will change. Compare this to Ford. Man, I honestly think it's Abdullah. I think I would go Abdullah over Ford. Broncos haven't actually been that great for his running backs this season. They've actually been pretty bad. Allowing 34 points per game to running backs. They're allowing the third most catches and the most receiving yards too. Yeah, go Abdullah, man. Go Abdullah. It's going to be Abdullah and Lobb, I think, this week for the Raiders. Winston or DeVito? Man, this here we are. It's week 12. It is week 12, and we're talking Jameis Winston, Tommy DeVito here in week 12. Does not get better than this. We got DeVito projected over Winston. I think I agree with it. given the matchup for Winston, given the rushing potential for DeVito too, he could run like almost as much or more than what we saw from Daniel Jones. And he's got a good matchup versus the Bucs. I'm not a Tommy DeVito believer. Don't count me in that group. But if I have to start him over Winston, I'm fine doing that. Should I trade Russell Wilson and Hopkins for Kyler? Yeah, Matt, I would do this. I think Kyler could actually win leagues. Russ is not winning leagues. Hopkins, he's not winning leagues. And Kyler actually could. Kyler's really on the short list of QBs that I really want. It's a pretty small list, honestly, of QBs. Otherwise, I'm just streaming. The list of QBs that I really want that I think can win leagues is basically all the guys up to Kyler here. Lamar, Allen, Hurts, Burrow, Daniels, Herbert, and Kyler. Kyler gets a great fantasy football playoff schedule. He gets the Pats, the Panthers, and the Rams. He's got the rushing floor. Yeah, I'm definitely in on Kyler. I like that trade a lot. Tillman or Henry, the Patriots set in for flex. Yeah, it's Tillman. It's Tillman over Henry. I'll go Tillman over Henry. Warren or Judy? Yeah, it's Judy over Warren. Should I start Harris or Westbrook Akine? Yeah, it's Najee there. Go Najee. What's up, Sam? Week 12, still on the app. Love to hear it, Adam. PPR flex, start one. Chuba Hubbard, Christian Watson, Quentin Johnson, or Roshan. Not a Thursday night start sit here, but I got you, Adam. Crafts last week, donut. Yeah, we were on the craft props last week. That was a rough one. That was a rough L. Hate to get the donuts with the props. It's absolutely terrible. I think this one's probably Chuba Hubbard or Christian Watson. We got to see if what the report is on Ladd. This is Sunday morning question, man. Sunday morning question, because we're going to have more info on Ladd. And if Ladd's out, this one might be Quentin Johnson. If Swift is out, it might be Roshan. Right now, though, today, if I have to choose, I'm going Christian Watson after last week. And then, yeah, there's a few tight end streamers. Disley is probably the preferred one, but Schoonmaker is an interesting deep tight end option if you need one. This is fantastic advice. Well done. Thanks, Scooby Snacks. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the positivity. When you're on social media, as much as I am, you get a lot of negativity. I always appreciate the positivity. Love or Baker. Chris Boswell averages 13 a game, but with the win, is he a start tonight? Yeah, he's a start tonight. He is. And Love versus Baker, I think it's probably Baker this week. I think we have them close in the app. Would you start Swift and McConkey? Or would you trade Swift and McConkey for Brees? Yeah, I would do that. I love packaging 2-for-1s like this. You're clearly getting the best player in the trade. And the Jets have an amazing playoff schedule too. Tillman or Addison? Oh man, that one's close. I think that one's pretty close. Let's see here in the start sit tool. Tillman versus Addison. Trade Kamara for Tyron Tracy and Juwan Jennings. Oh, man, that one's close too. I don't think I love that one unless you're starting both Tillman, both Tracy and the receiver you were getting there, Juwan Jennings. I do like Jennings a lot. Jennings has been over 30% target share in every game without Deebo or Ayuk so far this season. It was Tillman and Addison, I think was the question. Or maybe it was, I think it was Tillman and Addison. Yeah, it's Tillman and Judy over Addison. Start Jefferson this week? Yeah, obviously we're starting Justin Jefferson. Top 5 option this week. Jefferson has one game under 10 points this whole season. Flex Elijah Moore or Bateman? Oh, man. That one's probably Elijah Moore. Bateman gets the Chargers. Not really a good spot for him. Man, it's Bateman by 0.1 in the WalterPicks app here. I'd go Bateman. Why Pickens with weather? Yeah, so Weatherman Sam's here. That's the hat I'm wearing. You can't really see it on TikTok because it's reverse. But on YouTube, you can see it, I think. Weatherman Sam has been here all season. We've been here multiple seasons. Weatherman Sam was actually on bye last week. It was a great bye week. Great timing because we have a very intriguing weather report tonight. But it's just not one that I'm super concerned about. Judy with the winter weather advisory tonight in Cleveland or Christian Watson? I think Christian Watson's a better option, but not because of the winter weather advisory. There's going to be light snow, guys, and light rain. Maybe some light sleet. It's not going to be, this downpouring snow and downpouring rain where you can't even see. Just some light snow, some light rain, some light precipitation. Nothing you can't play through and pass through. And then there's also going to be some wind, but the wind gusts are estimated up to 20 miles an hour. I've seen some reports of up to 25 to 30. That'd be a little bit worse. But these are just the wind gusts. The sustained winds are in the 10 to 15 mile an hour range. Not concerning. I'm really not that concerned. I think that you should expect both teams to be a little bit more run heavy, especially the Browns, who have let Jameis Winston throw 40 plus times in 3 straight games. I don't think he gets the 40 plus pass attempts in this game, given the matchup and the weather. But the weather, I really don't think is going to impact the efficiency of the passing offenses and the offenses overall tonight. So I'm really not that concerned. And I'm still starting Pickens. I'm actually taking the Pickens prop tonight over 59.5 receiving yards. All right, we'll get to a few more start sits here before we wrap up. Would you start Tillman or Otten? Otten or Tillman? I'm seeing in both live streams here, Otten versus Tillman. Let's do this one quick. This one actually might be close. I usually hate starting 2 tight ends. I do think Tillman is startable tonight. Yeah, it's on. I'd go Otten over Tillman. I'd go Russ over May. I'd go May over Russ. What do you think the Steelers' chances of the Super Bowl are? Yeah, extremely low, Darren. Like extremely low. They are well behind just too many teams. It's like almost less about the Steelers and more about how they stack up to the other teams when you're talking about Super Bowl. The Steelers are well behind. If we're just talking about the AFC. We're just talking AFC here for a second. Well behind the Bills. They're well behind the Chiefs. I think they're probably well behind the Chargers. I wouldn't say well behind the Chargers. We'll leave the Chargers for a second. They're well behind the Bills. They're well behind the Chiefs. I still think in a playoff matchup, probably would take the Ravens there. I know they just beat the Ravens without scoring a touchdown. Chargers are probably pretty comparable to them. Like they could lose round 1 to any of those teams in the playoffs. They're obviously not going to get the bye. And then in the Super Bowl, if they actually get there, I don't think they beat the Lions. They don't have the offense to compete against some of these. They have the defense. It's going to be the defense that would ultimately get them there. They may be the best defense in the NFL. It's like them, the Chargers, the Chiefs. I think one of those 3. Maybe the Broncos are in that conversation. There's a night football question here. Hey, Sam, start 3. Pickens, Monty, Metcalf, Jason, Tyreek, Mike Evans. Yeah, so you're not starting Pickens here. You're going with Monty for sure. You're going Metcalf. You got some good options between Monty, Metcalf, Tyreek, and Evans. I'd probably bench JSN and Pickens here. Should I receive Monty and give Brian Robinson and Herbert? Yeah, I love it. I'd probably give, Herbert versus Kyler's close, especially with this Lad injury. We got Herbert one spot ahead the rest of the season rankings. They both have a really good playoff schedule. Yeah, I still think I'd probably take Herbert, though, given the schedule. I'd probably send Kyler instead of Herb. Yeah, so I put the Steelers' chance of making the Super Bowl probably around 2%, 2 to 5%. Dell, Tillman, or Shakir? Probably Shakir there over Dell and Tillman. Ertz, Goddard, or Kelsey start with? Yes, Kelsey here. What Lad injury? So Lad has a shoulder injury. He picked this up last game. He's been estimated to not be a participant in practice so far this week. Sorry. I still think he plays because he did play through the shoulder injury the rest of the game. He didn't miss the rest of the game when he got hurt. So yeah, I still think I'd probably trust Lad to play. Unless I have Pickens, then I think I would just go Pickens because I think he's a good option tonight. I'm going with Doomsday over Jalen Warren. I think you should be benching Jalen Warren. I think you should be benching the quarterbacks tonight. I want to bench Elijah Moore if I can. He's probably the least must bench of the group, though. If you really need it in PPR, you could do much worse than Elijah Moore this week. And then obviously Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson. No one's asking questions about these guys. Tillman, Judy, or JMO. Yes, what's JMO for sure? Play JMO. Disley or Jonnu Smith. It's Disley there. Chris Boswell is a start. Don't let the weather get you off of Chris Boswell. I don't think so. Steelers defense over all defenses this week. They're the number 1 defense. Kupp, Neighbors, Pickens. Yeah, you're not going Pickens with this one. It's Kupp or Neighbors. Kupp's got a really tough matchup, but he's been balling. Neighbors gets Tommy DeVito, but a great matchup. I think it's Neighbors. But Sunday morning, we can think through this one a little bit more. But yeah, I think it's Neighbors over Kupp. Kittle or Njoku? Yeah, it's Kittle. So a very short list of guys I'm going over Njoku this week, but Kittle's on it. It's Bowers, Kelsey, Kittle, McBride on. End of list. Then I'm going Njoku. I'm going Njoku over Hawkinson, Njoku over Henry, Njoku over Disley, over Hawkinson. We just said Andrews, Laporte. I'm playing Njoku over all those guys. DeVito over Russ. I'm playing DeVito over both the quarterbacks tonight, guys. Got stuck with the Browns defense this week. Any confidence at all with the weather? Yeah, Josh, I think there's some confidence here. The Steelers did not score a touchdown this week. They had 5 field goals. So that's you got that working in your favor. The weather shouldn't hurt the defenses. I'm going Otten over Njoku. Yup. I'm going Pop Douglas over Judy. I'm going Jameson Williams over Tillman for sure. Just a recap, guys. The Steelers, they're favored by 3.5. I'm not concerned about the weather tonight. Don't overreact to the weather. 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts, not that bad. Light rain, light snow, not that bad. I know the first snow game, everyone always freaks out. It's going to be cold. There's going to be a little precipitation. There's going to be some wind gusts, but none of that is substantially bad. I do think it probably skews a little more run heavy, but I like the Steelers tonight. I like the defense a lot. I still like George Pickens a lot. I think Najee Harris is a good option. I think Njoku's a pretty good option in most leagues. I think Judy, Tillman, Chubb can be considered. They're maybe worth it in a bunch of spots. I think the Steelers win this game. I think they win it by more than 3.5 tonight. And I think the over hits too. The 36.5 over under seems pretty low to me. And Pickens is the free player prop tonight. Here's the receivers again. I'm starting over Pickens. Mike Evans is on that list. Seeing that one on the TikTok live. I go Amon-Ra Brown, Jay Jettas, Malik Neighbors. I'm not playing Lamb or McConkey over Pickens because I'm not confident they're going to play this week. Still up in the air. I'm more confident in McConkey than Lamb if you want to risk it. I'm playing McConkey and holding out hope over Judy and Tillman and Chubb, but I don't know if I would do it over Pickens. I'm playing Nico, Metcalf, Cup, JSN, and Tyreek over Pickens. I don't think I'd go Flowers over Pickens personally. We do have him over Pickens in the WalterPicks app. Adunze or Jacoby, not a Thursday night question. Thank you for answering. Been following you and your content for 3 fantasy seasons now, Cole. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate it. Can't believe how many years it's been. We got a question here in the TikTok live. I have Najee and Njoku. How many points do you think they're going to get? Yeah, so I mean, I think they're both decent options. They probably combine for 25-ish points tonight. Adunze or Jacoby, I think it's Adunze there. Guys, that's my time. Thank you so much for tuning in on the YouTube live. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the Sunday morning live. Check out the WalterPicks app. I got it showing on screen on the YouTube live right now. If I didn't get your start sit, best place to go for free is the WalterPicks app. It's in the YouTube description. Have a fantastic Thursday night. Enjoy this banger of a game between the Steelers and the Browns. First snow game. Don't overreact to the weather for whatever decisions you got to make. Good luck, everyone. I'll be back live Sunday. Looking forward to it.